Okay, today's live story on healing multiple sclerosis. Okay, this is Alina's report from Poland, and it was written in November 2012. So here is all about what she was suffering and how it came to be, and what most people think they have to put up with, which is what she did for a long time. So it was the spring of 1978. And these are her words. I noticed that I had difficulty reading. I couldn't make out the letters, and I sometimes saw double. In the summer of the same year, my eyesight also deteriorated, and I developed an eye tremor. An eye doctor examined me and prescribed glasses. So far, pretty straightforward, huh? In the following years, I developed pain in my legs and spine, which got worse over time. And then in the right arm and leg, which was particularly severe. In June of 1986, I suddenly felt acute pain in my right leg, which had its origin in the spine and spread all over the hip all the way into my big toe. The pain was so severe that I fell to the ground. Can you imagine that? Oh. My colleagues helped me to go to the doctor, who prescribed painkillers, right? Isn't that what we want? Just take the pain away. Please, doctor. That's why we go to the doctor. Please take the pain away. So she got painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs, right? Take away the inflammation, just take away my pain, and then my life can go on normal. This is what we're all learning here in 2020. Normal, no more. Despite the treatment, the pain persisted, and I was sent to the hospital where I was examined and was diagnosed with sciatica and nervousness, and prescribed piroxicam, cardiol, and oxapam. Over the following years, the symptoms occurred with varying intensity. Once I had to stay into bed for 2 full weeks, depending on my husband for help. That's awful when you're like that. I used to have that sense where I just was so exhausted and tired. It was like, please, somebody help me. It's a complete sense of powerlessness when you're in that spot. Over the following years, the symptoms occurred with, he had to carry me to the bathroom because I couldn't use my legs and my right arm. Back then, I received injections and took painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs. Since I couldn't keep my balance, I used a walking stick. In August of 1992, my husband died suddenly. My health deteriorated. In July of 1994, I was hospitalized because I felt very bad and lost hearing in my left ear. After an examination, the doctor suspected partial damage of the sensory pathways in the left side of the brain or the spinal cord above the 12th thoracic vertebrae of the chest, and damage to the hearing pathway in the brain stem. Doctors are very good at diagnosing and seeing what was wrong. They're very good at that, and they're very good at fixing surgeries, broken bones, removing organs. Very good at that. When it's all a complicated system, they could use some help with that. During another stay in the hospital in February of 1995, suspicion arose of damage to the central nervous system. The neurological examination demonstrated a balancing disturbance, weakness in the legs, double vision, and a recessive involuntary eye tremor, astigmatism, weakness in the muscle of my arms and legs, as well as the abdominal reflex on both sides. I was recommended to take the prescribed drugs and was discharged from the hospital. During this time, I wasn't able to move my own and needed outside help. My health deteriorated continually, and in September of the same year, I ended up in the hospital again. This time, the diagnosis was multiple sclerosis. I couldn't believe it. It was bad enough that my brother had suffered from it, but not me. Oh my gosh, hereditary, running through the family. Have you ever had that diagnosis go through what's gone on with your family, and then you think, oh, it could be me too if it happened to my mother, my brother, my father? Again, the opposite direction of where we want to go. Great detective work, but is that the where we want to go? So she couldn't believe it. It was bad enough that my brother had suffered from it, but not me. I took many drugs, among them cortisone, intravenously and orally. In the rehabilitation department, they helped me practice walking. Back home from the hospital, I moved with the help of crutches, and it was very difficult. I fastened the crutches to my hands with straps. This way I was able to reach the toilet. I mainly moved from the furniture heaving my body around with my arms and elbows since I suffered from muscle contractures in both legs. A rehabilitation specialist visited me at home and helped me practice every morning from 8 till noon. I also had a nurse at my disposal. I needed help with my morning bathing, getting dressed, preparing meals, and taking a bath. I couldn't turn over on my own. From time to time, my hands failed as well, and I could neither write nor hold a piece of bread or spoon with my right hand nor drink. My son cut my bread into small pieces, and I ate with my left hand. I wasn't always successful. Sometimes I needed to be fed. On top of that, I had speech and memory disorder. I always had faith in God, and my faith and prayers had helped me overcome hard times in my life. I was in medical care all along and took medication. In some years, I had to go to the hospital several times. I was taken there by ambulance most of the time in such a condition that I had to be carried because I couldn't move at all. At times, I couldn't hold my urine. Then I was recommended a drug called deteriorated. I found the continuing shaking of my hands very annoying. Towards the end of the 1990s, I couldn't walk on my own for 2 years and only moved around in a wheelchair. A neurological examination detected a spastic paralysis of the arms and the legs. The doctor said the illness type was acute flare-ups with remissions, with symptoms got worse mostly in the spring and autumn when I spent several months in a wheelchair. In the remissions phase, I moved about with the help of crutches. I had difficulty getting up and climbing stairs since I couldn't straighten up on my own. I had to cling to something and stand still for a while because my whole body would shake. I needed to find my balance first before I could start walking. I felt very limp and needed to rest often. My legs shook if I walked for too long and without a break. I wasn't able to cope with physical strain and fell down ever so often. There are many people in the world that have their own set of symptoms, multiple sclerosis, all kinds of chronic illnesses, and they just feel like they have to live with it all their life. And not only am I going to finish her healing now, but I've met a woman in Quebec who had same healing, and that's on video of her healing of multiple sclerosis. It's a great story. So how Alina came to the teaching. In July of 2007, there was a medical information lecture, a medical information letter. These are doctors that give information like this because they want people to get help and get healed and get healthy. That's why the doctors share the information on their own time. In July of 2000, there's a medical information lecture held in a neighboring town. An acquaintance who led a community in the Bruno Gurning Circle of Friends told me about it. Since I had unexpected visitors, I didn't attend the lecture. That's how things happen. People go, oh, it's a sign I shouldn't go. No, that's a sign that you're being thwarted from your heart's desires. I talk about all this time in inner guidance, is when you truly know that your heart's desires are designed to come true, you start to realize the signs that are stopping you from that, instead of thinking those signs are stopping you from where you're supposed to go. It's the biggest mistake spiritual light workers make. I used to do it all the time. Now I just go move. So she only was introduced to the teaching then a half year later. So 6 months had to go by until she was introduced in January 10th, 2008. Here comes. During the introduction, I felt a tingling and warm all over my body, as well as the pain just above my left ear. I felt light and strong. After the introduction, I stayed for the following community hour, during which the tingling in my hands intensified. In my first meeting, I took on the job of success report leader, even though I didn't know what it was all about. Yep, I remember that. You want to be a community leader? Sure. What does that mean? You just step in. There's a sense, your heart's desires, your inner soul is speaking, saying, yes, I want more of that. On the way home, I was surprised how well I felt and about the fact that I didn't feel tired after a 12-mile hike to Slepisk and back to Utska, including the walk from the bus stop back home. So she's one moment in time, okay? This is dramatically shifting. In the past, I had always been tired and had to lie down and rest. I was very happy that the tiredness had been taken from me. I attended community hours on a regular basis and also did Einstein for the Hallstrom several times a day at home. From the time I attended the introduction, I didn't need my wheelchair any longer. So she used to have those periods of remission constantly, like twice a year, and she was in the wheelchair for months. Now, from just going to the introduction lecture and being in the community hour, taken in the Hallstrom. She has no more a need for a wheelchair. Nobody needed to feed me anymore. Imagine how that felt for her, to be free to feed yourself again. We take these things for granted, right? So this is something, if you've never noticed, is when you sit down to meal, be grateful that you have the capability, that your body is healthy enough for you to feed yourself. The involuntary eye movement disappeared, and I gained in strength. 3 months after the introduction, I gained back hearing in my left ear. Although still using crutches, I was able to walk more and more easily and longer distance without getting tired. Bit by bit, I managed my household better and better using both my hands. Imagine the delight that's going through her at all this point. In May of 2008, so this is 5 months, right? It was January she was introduced. In May of 2008, I wrote with my own hand the first report about the healing of a friend in our community. In the spring of 2009, I didn't need painkillers or antispasmodic drugs any longer. And in the summer, I stopped taking Cavitin, which I was supposed to take for the rest of my life. Just breathe on that. Really get present to what she leaned into and what is going on for her. In August of 2009, I went to a conference in Gdansk. Gdansk is where Bruno was born. During Einstellen, with the friends in the woods, I already felt pain in my legs, and I had a strange feeling in my stomach. In the afternoon, I started having strong Regalugen. So Regalugen, which is, if I pronounced it improperly, is the German word for that your body is detoxing, it's regulating. Bruno said it's such a slight difference in pain that we're so weak and far away from God, that we don't even recognize that it's Regalugen, it's healing pain. Okay, and it's subtly different. And when you're so weak and far away from what the truth is, you think, oh, I'm getting a pain again. It's healing. You're always working towards healing. I needed to use the bathroom many times, had strong pain in the stomach, vomited, had diarrhea, and couldn't walk properly. This is all the basic shit coming out of her. Your body's releasing it just like you release oxygen. You got to release the pain. You got to release the negative energy. You got to release the crap. So in one particular moment when I was walking to my seat, I fell to the ground. The friends helped me get up and sit down. I remembered that the next time I had to go, it was difficult for me to get to the bathroom. A friend saw me dragging my feet and asked whether I had Regalugen. She helped me to the bathroom and took me to a cafe. After a drink and a rest, I returned to the lecture hall with their help. On Saturday, I made it to the end of the conference, and on Sunday, I already felt well. I was sure that after Regalugen, like these, the healing would come. I just didn't know when. So a common thing that people make in a mistake is when they're going to get healthier, is as soon as they start to think they're having a relapse, they surround themselves with people that believe, oh yeah, it's a relapse. Look, you're getting sick. Got to get you to the doctor. Got to do this. Instead of staying connected and strong with the Hallstrom and people that are supporting the Regalugen, right? It's like when I had my skull crash the pavement, November 11th, 2011. I was in between, rushed myself to the hospital, or this was my moment to know, can healing streams actually heal my skull, which is, this hard thing that I believed is so important, and the head is the crucial aspect of our body, right? It contains our brain, blah 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 blah. So when you're surrounded with people, when you have a strong mentor, friend, in your area that knows the truth, that yes, this is what's going on, and is in tune and in touch, they can help support that space for you to make the best decision for yourself, because it's your choice. It's always your choice, your free will. So she knew then, after she went through all that, she could have said, oh, I'm too painful. I got to go. I can't handle this. And that's what many people do. I'm too sick. I can't attend. But she stuck with it, and she did. I had situations like that. I just slept, in the back with aching body. And I knew that all this stuff was just being released from my body. So back home, when I did Einstellen, I had the thought, stand up. I love when this happens. Stand up and walk without the crutches. You can do it. The same evening, I went for a walk with my sisters without the crutches. We walked for about 4 miles. Imagine being on crutches for all those years and then just getting a thought that she could trust and believe that she was going to be okay. And not just to take one step or a few steps, but for 4 miles. I know that if I had rejected that thought, okay, key thing, if I had rejected that thought and walked with the crutches, I would have missed my healing. That is such a point that is shared so often when people have healings, that they realize this is their moment. It's like my 11-11-11 healing. I knew that this was my moment to decide, can healing of all things, body, mind, and soul, bones, etc., be healed by absorbing healing streams? Or am I still dependent on the doctor for fixing me? Who am I dependent on? I'm dependent on God. I trust and believe that source consciousness gives health, that this is all present. If I can believe I can pick up the phone on a cell wave or be on an internet, I can believe in healing waves. Question is, can you? So she knew in that moment, and so many people miss their moment. And they keep going in a cycle and they keep going. The whole world is in that moment now. The whole world is in the moment of what do you choose to believe? Okay? And that's why I'm here, to keep sharing. So, and those that want to trust their inner guidance and believe and have somebody in their corner, there's lots of us out there that know that that health exists and it's in your hands. So my sisters were surprised that I was able to walk without the crutches and without being short of breath. Well, they got tired. See, she's so full of energy now. She's out walking her sisters who were never on crutches. Okay, my healing happened about 1.5 years after I was introduced to the teaching of Bruno Grüning. So all those years of suffering, 18 months later, she was free. At the end of 2009, I learned how to work with a computer, which makes working with the success reports much easier. Due to the computer skills, I am also able to attend the internet conferences of the Bruno Grüning Circle of Friends and take on other jobs in the Circle of Friends. I enjoy walking again. I wear high heels and have no difficulty getting up and keeping my balance. Imagine, see, if you have to wear high heels all the time, you're like, get out of the high heels. Like, I love walking barefoot. But if you haven't been able to even have that experience to actually put them on or it's like, to be able to have that freedom of choice. That's the kicker. My hands are full of strength. My eyes and hands are calm. I didn't even realize when it came about that I can speak fluently again. I have a brilliant memory and full of energy. The witness report. Elizabeth says, we knew each other for about 28 years. We lived together in Utsta. In this 2-family house, I lived with my family on the ground floor, and Alina moved into the attic apartment, which could be reached by the steep wooden stairs with her family in 1983. I remember in the 80s, as something happened to her, she could no longer walk. At that time, her husband, who was still alive, always had to carry her into the bathroom. After 1.5 years, she started to use a walker. She had to go to the hospital, often to the neurology department, where I visited her. I remember when, after the death of her husband, she was not able to walk again. She used a wheelchair that stood downstairs in the hall when she left the house. She had to slide down the steps one by one to get to the wheelchair. She had unusual symptoms. Sometimes she was in a wheelchair and then she lifted herself out and moved slowly with crutches, which were tied to her arms so they wouldn't fall from her arms. The doctors in the hospital diagnosed multiple sclerosis. After she moved in the apartment on Kolishnik Street, we seldom saw each other, but sometimes I saw her in a wheelchair walking with crutches. I was very surprised when I saw Alina last year walking without crutches. For many months, I now live in the same apartment block in the same neighborhood as her. I hardly can believe that she can walk so well without crutches. I see her smiling, happy. She literally runs in the forest with her dog, which is so hard to believe. When I asked her what had helped her, she told me it was the teaching of Bruno Grüning and gave me a leaflet. The doctor's commentary. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic inflammatory illness of the central nervous system, which leads to multiple damage of the nerve tissue. It is considered to be incurable. The description of the 30-year illness points towards a particularly severe form of the illness. Such an advanced long-term illness does not go into remission, but gets worse. As a doctor, I am astounded by this great healing. This is not to be explained from a doctor's point of view. Dr. Kolonowska. And as I said, there is, if you go to Google the Bruno Gruning 10-year documentary film, there's like a 30-minute clip that talks about how the film was made, all by a circle of friends, volunteers, donations. And at the very end of it, there is a story of Kim, who lives in Quebec, Canada. And I've had the pleasure of meeting her. And when she saw the documentary film and she had seen that someone had, not Alina either, someone had been healed of multiple sclerosis, at that point in time, she was thinking of committing assisted suicide because she didn't want to have her children see what went through. And she had been a super duper athlete and like karate champion. And so if you go and you want to listen to her story, again, she's had a complete healing and you can see her vibrancy. So these healings continue to happen all around the world. And this is because we trust and believe. And the doctors and the practitioners that are convinced that there's much more than what they know and their heart is open to wanting to help and heal are spreading that message. You may only be hearing one message, and the rest of us are doing our best to deliver the message that can inspire you to new levels of health. It is your personal journey to choose which do you believe. Is God the greatest physician? Is source consciousness give you health? Or is it something you're always having to defend yourself and try to achieve? Can it exist? Once you discover, like I've done, that it just exists after so many years of trying to get there and trying to diagnose and trying is the key word. When you step into knowing is actually doing. So a healthy body releases, a healthy body coughs, a healthy body releases things also in order to stay healthy. Our immune system, our energy system, we're designed to be strong and vital. And when you're participating and you're listening to negative things and you're focused on fear and anger and sadness and all this other stuff, it can depress your immune system. People around you that you might love dearly could be, in a sense, contributing to your ailment. You know, then there's also the sense of you may have been so victimized and felt so powerless for so long. You're wondering, is there still hope? Yes, there's always hope. I can share, and I'll keep sharing stories after stories of how people's lives have turned around. And it starts with making a decision that, yes, you want to know more information. There's the Bruno Gruning documentary film. Again, Brazzo's Gazing. You can check him out today. You can reach out to me if you really want to work with me hand in hand, day by day, to make sure that you're on that path, that you're taking in the energy and that you're just releasing things daily that are getting in your way. There's so many choices available for you. And whatever you choose is fine because it's your choice. We were given free will. Allow yourself to be in alignment with what your heart's desires are and trust and believe that it can really, truly come true.